The blast reported in Kabul city, incident believed to be near the Ministry of Justice, large explosion heard in the diplomatic area of Kabul. Well, that is the latest that we are getting in right now from Kabul. A blast has been reported from the Diplomatic Enclave in Kabul. What the nature of the blast is yet to be ascertained, but it is a big explosion. We don't know what the nature of that explosion is, whether there were explosives involved. We're going to try and get more word on it. But a loud noise was heard in Kabul city, the heart of it, near the Diplomatic Enclave. Well, it is near the Ministry of Justice where this incident has taken place. I want to cut across to a correspondent from the Ministry of External Affairs. Smita Sharma is with me. She's going to talk us through this latest news break. Smita, can you give us details coming in? Do we know what the nature of the explosion is? Do we know any more details on the story?
Well, not too many details, Preeti, really pouring in at this point in time. But what we do know is that there was this large explosion, in fact, that was heard near the Ministry of Justice in Kabul. Also, this ministry, for the sake of the viewers, in fact, this is kilometers away really from the Indian embassy, at least a kilometer away. The Indian embassy really is located at this very high security diplomatic enclave. But sources, in fact, within the Indian embassy say that the Indian embassy is completely unharmed, and we don't know as to what really was the target of this latest attack in Kabul, the capital city of Afghanistan, really. But so far what we are learning is, at least as far as the Indian embassy is concerned, it is completely unharmed. No news of any damage near the embassy properties, but the blast seems to have happened near, of course, the Ministry of Justice. Two people, in fact, are reportedly informed as injured at the moment, but that's the details that we have so far.
All right, so the latest details that have been coming in are that two people are injured. The blast was at the Diplomatic Enclave, but our correspondents have touched base with the Indian mission, the Indian embassy there, and everybody is safe and sound. Smita, if you can give us more details. You know, with what we've been witnessing in the last 2 weeks, the spate of these terror attacks have only but increased.
Well, you know, Preeti, every year, in fact, we see that around the time, especially during April and May, it's really the Taliban spring offensive that is on the increase. And clearly, you know, there is a new government, in fact, in place in Kabul that has also been trying to talk to Pakistan. There are talks with the Taliban, in fact, that is supposedly underway in Qatar. You know, preparations, in fact, are happening through Pakistan, of course, with the US. But clearly, we just saw that attack last week itself, where 4 Indians, in fact, were gunned down at this guest house, which is a common lodge for foreign nationals as well. But for the moment, as far as this particular blast is concerned, what we only know is that this explosion, in fact, was heard near a parking lot, in fact, close to the Justice Ministry, and some gunfires, in fact, were also heard. Perhaps the gunfire is still underway.
All right, so gunfire heard as well. Well, that is the latest also coming in. My colleague Smita Sharma getting us the very latest that is filtering in on that story right now. Smita, what are you picking up from the Ministry of External Affairs? The spate of violence that we've seen over the last 2 weeks, 4 Indians killed in the last attack at that hotel. Now that blast near the Diplomatic Enclave. Do you reckon somewhere down the line there would be a change in stance and maybe issue an advisory to Indians traveling to Afghanistan?
Not really, you know, as far as Afghanistan is concerned. Remember, Preeti, India, in fact, has been really sort of involved in the redevelopment of this country. There's also that, line of credit, that billions dollars line of credit that India has extended to Afghanistan over the last few years, especially in terms of the civilian goodwill. India enjoys a very high degree of goodwill, both India and the Indians. There are Indian workers there who have been working. In fact, India has also been working on the parliament, though that project has really been delayed. The parliament building is just supposed to be, in fact, handed over to the Afghans. But while, of course, India always asks its nationals and citizens to exercise caution when going into Afghanistan, this is, as I was mentioning, that spring offensive period where we'll perhaps see an increase in the attacks.
Smita, stay with me. We are joined by Sharif Hassanyar. He's senior journalist in Kabul. Maybe he can shed some more light on this latest incident that has taken place. Mr. Hassanyar, appreciate you joining us. Can you give us more details on this explosion that has been heard? And we believe there's information of gunfire as well coming in from the Diplomatic Enclave in Kabul.
Yeah, thank you very much. 10 minutes before now, there was an explosion in the center of Kabul at the parking of Ministry of Justice in Kabul, Afghanistan. Still, there is no report about the casualty, but as I see in the picture, something is fire there, and the police and the security forces still doesn't have any reaction about it.
All right. So, do we have any idea at this juncture, Mr. Hassanyar, who is the target of this particular explosion? We don't know what this blast is, the nature of the blast as such. And are there still firing being witnessed there? Is there firing being witnessed?
Actually, as I mentioned to you, the explosion happened in the parking of Ministry of Justice. And the place where the explosion has happened, it's a crowded place in the Kabul city. We call it center of Kabul. And still, the target of the enemy is not clear. Who is the target? But the place where the explosions happened, it is a parking belongs to the Ministry of Justice.
All right. Appreciate you joining us, Mr. Hassanyar. We are also joined by another journalist, a senior journalist from Tolo News, Ratib Noori, is with us. Mr. Noori, any more details coming in on this explosion that has taken place, I believe, right now in the parking lot of the Ministry of Justice at the Diplomatic Enclave?
Yeah, thank you. The explosion happened, as you said, in the parking of Ministry of Justice, and it said, one of the witnesses has said that it was a Toyota Corolla car with a guy sitting in it, a kind of old age man, and he exploded himself when he reached the parking. So it's still, the casualties are not clear yet, but it's, there must be we will be witnessing a large amount of casualties. So
you are fearing, Mr. Noori, you are fearing a large amount of casualties, primarily because this was the center of Kabul. That's what it's called, in a highly populated place.
Yeah, because it's also the time to the government staff to leave, because it's 4:30, so it's the time when they're going to leave to their homes from all ministries, and also the areas at the center of Kabul. And in this place, it's near to Presidential Palace, it's near to Ministry of Justice here, it's near to Ministry of Finance, and also around there are other some government institutions.
Right.
So it's expected to be the high casualty.
So the target, what seems right now, prima facie, Mr. Noori, has been government officials and the citizens, local citizens.
The target is not clear yet. We are still trying to confirm what's going on. There is no security official who confirms the incident and the target. So investigations are going on, but in recent days, we have been witnessing lots of explosions in Kabul city, and Kabul is witnessing a kind of insecurity.
All right, because yes, you're right there, Mr. Noori. In the last 10 days, we've seen many attacks, especially in the heart of Kabul. Just about 2 weeks ago, in that attack where the parliament was concerned, we lost 4 Indians as well. In terms of fatalities, have numbers started trickling in, sir?
I couldn't...
In terms of fatalities, casualties, have numbers started filtering in?
Yeah, no.
All right, we seem to be having a problem with your audio line. We're going to try and reconnect to you. Appreciate you joining us, Mr. Noori, at this point of time. Now, the pictures that you see on the television screen are the first pictures emerging of this blast, this explosion that has taken place. With initial reports coming in, it suggests this blast has taken place in the parking lot of the Ministry of Justice. It's also called popularly as the heart of Kabul. That is where a lot of people gather, especially at this point of time. It's about 4:30 Kabul time, Afghanistan time, and people were leaving, especially government officials were leaving their ministries to go home. A lot of people just come here as well, is what we are being told, and the fatalities are only expected to rise right now. There have been word of gunfire as well. We don't know whether that has ceased yet. We're going to try and get in a word from our correspondents on that story. But what we can confirm with these first images of the Kabul blast, which goes on to suggest that there will be massive fatalities. That is what journalists right now who are reporting the story from the ground in Kabul are saying and telling us. I want to bring in Smita Sharma. She's a correspondent from the Ministry of External Affairs. She's joining me live right now. Smita, can you talk us through the latest news break with what we have right now? Initial information suggests that this was the parking lot of the Ministry of Justice. This is practically the heart of Kabul. It does, the target still unknown, who this explosion was targeting, but there was word of gunfire as well. Has that ceased, or that still is continuing?
Well, there in fact gunfire reports continue to come in, and in fact now those pictures that we are playing out for our viewers on the TV screens, pictures that we are posting, of course, sourcing in through locals and witnesses who are putting it out through websites as well. There seems to be that dark, in fact, a plume of smoke that one can see from that explosion area. As far as the Ministry of Justice is concerned, really, Preeti, this is on the Nadir Pashtun Road, and it's close to that bridge area of Darya-e-Kabul. Kabul, the Serena Hotel, in fact, where a lot of, in fact, foreigners do come and stay. That is also pretty nearby, but it does seem to be as if for prima facie, it was really this government building which was the target of this fresh explosion where casualties are feared, Preeti.
Smita, do stay with me. We're going to come right back to the story. We're going to slip into a quick break, but this explosion that has occurred in the parking lot of the Ministry of Justice in Kabul is our continuous focus. The fatalities are going to be high, is what is being suggested by reporters on ground. We're going to keep tracking that story.